March 2006, Beijing. On what seemed like an ordinary morning, Mr. Wang, the longtime building manager of an old office building named Beijing, was cleaning out the basement in preparation for some renovations. The B2 level of the building had been abandoned for years, filled with the damp, musty smell and an eerie, pitch-black darkness. While clearing out some old ventilation fans, Mr. Wang stumbled upon a horrifying sight. A body, shriveled and almost mummified, wedged deep inside one of the ventilation shafts. The body was that of a young woman, dressed only in a bra. On her chest was a large wound, with dried, dark blood caked over it, a grim reminder of time's passing. The shocking scene was enough to make Mr. Wang immediately contact the police, marking the beginning of one of Beijing's most chilling and mysterious criminal cases of the early 21st century. Immediately after the body was discovered, police sealed off the scene. The remains were sent in for forensic examination, and what came back sent chills down everyone's spine. The victim was a young woman, estimated to be between 18 and 22 years old. Her body showed clear signs of sexual assault. Most disturbingly, she had suffered a severe blow to the head, so violent that her face was completely disfigured. But there was one detail that caught the investigators' attention. The body hadn't decomposed in the usual way. Instead, it was dried out, almost mummified. The reason? Years of constant airflow from the basement's ventilation system had naturally preserved the body, slowly drying it out over time. On the victim, police found makeup, carefully painted fingernails, a luxury handbag, and most notably, an old newspaper folded neatly inside. When forensic investigators discovered an old newspaper inside the victim's handbag, a copy of the Beijing Evening News, dated October 6, 1999, authorities immediately suspected it could be the crucial clue they needed to uncover the victim's identity. Combined with the victim's physical traits, estimated age between 18 and 22, petite build, manicured nails, carefully applied makeup, and a designer handbag, police began to focus their investigation on missing person cases from the end of 1999. After several days of reviewing files, one name began to stand out: Gia, a final year student at a prestigious university in Beijing. She was the only daughter of a wealthy family. Her parents were business people, and the family lived in a high-end residential complex. According to those closest to her, Gia was independent, confident, stylish, and always paid great attention to her appearance. On October 7, 1999, Gia left home carrying a luxury Chanel handbag, dressed in smart, elegant clothes. She told her mother she was heading to her part-time job at an office in the Beijing building, but she never came back. What made things even more mysterious was this. Surveillance footage from the building's underground garage showed Gia driving down into the basement, behind the wheel of a sleek black coupe. But after that, nothing. There was no footage of her exiting the garage, no images of her leaving the building. Her car was still there, doors locked, untouched, no signs of forced entry. Her disappearance sent shockwaves through Beijing. Her family launched a full-scale search, hiring multiple private investigation teams, printing flyers, running ads on television and in newspapers. They worked hand in hand with police, searching everywhere, from hospitals and hotels to industrial zones and quiet suburbs on the city's outskirts. The basement of the Beijing building, the last place Gia had been seen, was inspected at the time. But one spot had gone unnoticed: the wall ventilation system in the B2 basement. A narrow, filthy, and pitch-dark shaft, almost impossible to access or even see with the naked eye, especially since the building was still operating at the time. It was this unfortunate oversight, and the limited tools available back then, that left Gia's body hidden in the shadows for 7 years. Until Mr. Wang, the building's new storage manager, accidentally discovered it while cleaning for renovation. Then came the final confirmation. DNA tests from the victim were compared with samples from Gia's parents. It was a perfect match. There was no doubt anymore. The dried body in the ventilation shaft belonged to Gia, the beautiful young woman who vanished in 1999. The long cold missing persons case was finally closed. But in that same moment, a new door opened, a door to a brutal murder investigation. Because the person who took Guia's life had been walking free for the past 7 years. Just when the investigation seemed to hit a dead end, an unexpected clue from the past changed everything. A veteran investigator decided to reach out to Mr. Wu, a former night shift security guard who had worked in the basement of the Beijing building back in 1999, the year Gia went missing. By then, Mr. Wu had already retired. He was living quietly with his grandchildren in an old apartment complex just outside of Beijing. At first, he didn't think he could remember much, but the moment he heard the name Gia and the mention of the mummified body found in the ventilation shaft, he stopped cold. "I remember that night. It was strange," he said. "There were 3 workers down in the basement, but they weren't scheduled to be there. One of them was named Zhao Jiang, always had this sly grin and shifty eyes. They were acting nervous, kept looking around like they didn't want to be caught. When I asked what they were doing, they said they were checking the air vents, but no one had assigned them that." His memory triggered a deeper investigation. Police reopened old records of contractors who had worked at the building in the fall of 1999. Sure enough, there had been a maintenance crew working on the fix system. Right in the beta basement, the same place Gia was last seen. 3 names stood out: Zhao Jiang, Liu Kong, and Ma Shang, all temporary workers hired between September and October 1999. Strangely, all 3 had quit shortly after and left Beijing without giving any reason. What was even more suspicious, all of them had access to the basement's blueprints. They were even assigned to inspect the ventilation system, the very place where Guia's body would be found 7 years later. Police launched a nationwide manhunt. Almost a month later, they tracked down Zhao Jiang at a construction site in Guangxi province. He was living under a fake name, using false documents, and had completely disappeared from public records. Even after his arrest, he denied everything. But when faced with Mr. Wu's testimony and the evidence of his work history, his confidence started to crumble. After 18 straight hours of interrogation, Zhao Jiang finally broke down. And what he confessed was horrifying. He admitted that he and the other 2 workers had planned the crime in advance. They had been following her, learning her routine. And on the night of October 7th, when she came to work late at the Beijing building, they were ready. As soon as she pulled into the basement parking garage, they ambushed her. Using their knowledge of the building, they moved quickly and quietly. No one saw a thing. Then, they raped her, brutally. The details were so disturbing, even hardened investigators were shaken. But it didn't stop there. Worried that Gia might report them and destroy their lives, they made a horrifying decision. They beat her. They killed her. Then, to cover their tracks, they hid her body inside one of the ventilation shafts in the beta basement. A place so isolated, so hidden, they thought no one would ever find her. And for 7 long years, no one did. In 2007, nearly a year after Guia's dried body was found in the ventilation shaft of Beijing Building's beta basement, the 3 suspects were finally brought to trial. People thought this would be the end of the case, but instead of closure, the trial raised even more disturbing questions. During earlier interrogations, Zhao Jiang had confessed. He claimed that he and the other 2 workers had followed Gia, kidnapped her, raped her, and eventually killed her because they were afraid she'd report them. They hid her body inside the basement's ventilation system, a place rarely visited, where the constant airflow had slowly dried the body over time. But once in court, things started to unravel. Their stories didn't match. Each suspect described the events differently, the timeline, the way they restrained her, how she was killed. Not one of them could clearly explain the injuries that forensic experts had found, especially the brutal blow to her face that left it completely disfigured. These inconsistencies made their confessions seem unreliable. Even though Zhao Jiang had given a detailed account, police had no physical evidence to back it up. No DNA, no blood, no personal items, nothing. The years had erased everything. The victim's body was too far gone to extract any biological samples. The ventilation shaft, cold and dry, had preserved her in a way that made forensic work nearly impossible. And that became the biggest weakness in the case. No real evidence, only conflicting statements. Then things took an even stranger turn. One of the three suspects died suddenly before the trial was over. Authorities never explained the cause. All they said was that he passed away while still under investigation. That broke the chain of testimony. One voice is silenced forever. The second suspect was later declared legally insane, unfit to stand trial. He was sent to a psychiatric facility, removed entirely from the court process. Only Zhao Jiang remained. But with no solid proof, one suspect dead, another ruled mentally unfit, and three completely different stories. The court had no clear path forward. In a decision that shocked the public, the judge announced a full acquittal. No one was found guilty, no one went to prison. And if Guia's killer was among those three men, he walked away free. The case that once felt solved collapsed. It ended not with justice, but with confusion, anger, and heartbreak. The Beijing basement mystery closed with more questions than answers. Even today, it remains one of the most haunting unsolved cases in Beijing's history. A girl lost, a killer unpunished, and a truth buried, once again, in the dark. Thank you for watching this video. If you found this story meaningful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you won't miss the next powerful case we uncover. Until next time, stay safe and see you in the next video.